Hi and Leppy. I've seen people ask if this is only doable in Sunwell gear, so I decided to give it a try in the level 70 template gear on the beta. I'm also missing some enchants, so this is very bad gear, or not ideal gear for doing this. As far as glyphs, I'm only using the glyph of Monsoon. I've seen some people use the Starfall glyphs that aren't available yet, so I'm only using what's available at launch. And here's my talent build for doing this. It's mostly just AoE damage. It's not really good for much else except for doing this run. One important thing to note is that once you reach level 72, you can get the increased movement speed in cat form. So that way it makes the runs a lot safer, because if you get in a bind, you can just go cat form and run a little bit faster. Alrighty, so I'm going to start off here by rooting the target on the left, cycloning the target on the right, and then I'm going to run wide. And then once I get here in the middle, I'm going to recyclone that mob. Now what we do here is I'm going to pop out my treants and send them to attack the rooted mob. So you can see they're all chasing the treants back towards that rooted mob, and it lets me run forward without getting hit. That mob on the left is not always there, but you can cyclone if you see him, and I also use my roots there because I had one mob catch up to me. Now this is where I should be healing to full health and using my cooldowns like Bark Skin and maybe even Dash. Dash is a great cooldown to create some distance, and I almost died for that, so that's not great play. It's very important to use your cooldowns and make sure you're not dying with those available. And every time the mobs catch up, you're just going to turn and typhoon them away. Now you may have seen me moonfire that mob, so in order to get past these flame walls, you have to pull the packs. So if they don't aggro onto you, you can just go ahead and hit them with a moonfire, and then they'll start coming. So you see this mob is hitting me from the front. It's that mob I rooted earlier. So I try to put dots on them so that the roots will break early, and I don't have that happen. But if it does, you can, if you have the distance, you can recyclone them or cyclone them. If you don't have the distance, you can usually just face tank because it's only one mob. And as soon as you get past them, use your cyclone or typhoon in order to get some distance. At this point, you're basically home free. I'm just going to continue to go around the circle. I'm going to hit Typhoon almost on cooldown in order to create the distance, and use my trinkets with Starfire, or Starfall rather. Another thing you can do was what you saw there was you can get off a few ticks of Hurricane in order to get some extra damage. 2 is okay, 3 is also doable without getting hit, but if you do much more than that, you may find yourself getting caught, getting dazed and dying. So be careful on the hurricanes, don't get too greedy with those. Also, Insect Swarm is pretty mana efficient, so if you want to use that, sprinkle that onto some of the mobs, you can do that too. So just a few tips and tricks in no particular order. So one thing, I would be careful about starfalling too early. I originally tried to do some things where I would starfall at the beginning to get some early damage out, but I always ended up pulling the mobs around the furnace, and then they would come and attack me from the front, and it just didn't work out well for me. So if you want to play it safe, I'd wait to starfall until you have all the mobs grouped up. Light Bloom is very mana expensive, so probably don't use that unless you really need it. If you can rejuve to get your health back, that's probably the better option. Also, make sure you go into settings and your camera settings are fixed so that they don't auto adjust, because it's very annoying when you're trying to look behind you to see where the mob's at or place your hurricane and your camera is pulling around. Another thing that can happen is if you change like to cat form, you can cancel your starfall rather, and you want to be careful about not doing that, because we really need that damage, especially without the glyph. So if you think you're going to need to use cat form to get away, then make sure you either hold your starfall or use your starfall first. So as far as deaths, the vast majority of deaths are from the mobs catching up to you and clapping you. So the best thing you can do to prevent that, I think, is not be greedy with your mana and cooldowns. So basically heal if you need a heal. Don't be afraid to use dash. When I was learning the pull at first. I died a lot when I had dash up, and I was just being greedy, or I was running around with 20% health because I didn't want to use the mana on a heal. So the best advice I can give is don't be greedy with your cooldowns. But all in all, it's a fairly easy boost. I think it's easier than most of the mage boost and tribute runs. So I think if you take a few cracks at it and get a little bit of practice, it shouldn't be too hard. Now with this poor gear, no consumes, none of the unavailable glyphs, it takes me about 8 minutes a run, just under 8 minutes, which I think is not too bad. Obviously I haven't done a lot of practice. You can see from my experience bar, this is only my second run to complete. So in my brutal gear, my full PvP brutal gear, it takes about 6 minutes, so it is a lot faster with 6 minutes, no consumes. I think if you had some Black Temple or Sunwell PvE gear that had enough spirit and you use some consumes for mana regen and spell power, you probably wouldn't have any problem getting 5-minute runs. It's about roughly 500,000 XP per hour, and then you can get more based on whatever you do with your 15-20 minutes of downtime. You can either just take a break and then start back up. You can also go outside and farm some of the wolves or Valkyries, or do maybe a quest or two and then come back. And there's also a few videos that show you how to go deeper into the dungeon and pull a few packs back there if you want to do that. Maybe if you're on a benediction, the server's really full, you can look into doing that. But basically, you can see that even with the template gear, you're able to hit the instant lockout on clearing this first room. Alright, so that's basically all I have. I hope the video is helpful to any beginners out here. I'm just going to finish running in circles and cleaning up these mobs. If you have any questions, you can just leave them in the comments below. Thanks.